As we begin today, I want to acknowledge that I am located in Lloydminster on the border of Alberta and Saskatchewan in the heart of Treaty 6 territory. Before the arrival of the explorers and settlers, many First Nations traveled through and thrived in this area, which also includes the homeland of the Métis. I was born here, but I chose to return here as an adult. And now, after unlearning what I was taught in public school in the 1970s and 1980s, and relearning a less whitewashed history of this place, I see this land and its stories through very different eyes. I acknowledge that the roots of my family on the prairies came at the cost of the First Nations people who were here long before. Their land was taken so that my ancestors could farm and build their lives in this place that became known as Canada. I cannot change the past, but I can try to move forward in a good way by sharing what I've learned about the Indigenous peoples whose teachings are so intricately tied to this land and all it encompasses. I did not grow up going to church and Sunday school, so at some point I began to recognize the absence of faith and prayer in my life. I did not find what I was looking for in organized religion. In fact, I didn't know what was truly missing from my life until I met Wes Fine and started to learn about Cree culture and spirituality. I learned to pray with and from Wes. Now it has become a very natural process for me. However, I don't speak Cree, so I pray to Creator in my language, English. Today's episode begins with a question about that, which leads to a discussion about the cave of writing systems and the power of prayer and sound. Mr. Fine, my teacher, also shares a bit about his teacher and the role of medicines and ceremony in his family. These are topics that we will circle back to throughout the series. Wes sums up by talking about the importance of building bridges and using sound and our voices in a good way. Well, so in terms of language, and I remember having this conversation because I don't speak Cree. I've learned a few words, but when I started to learn to pray in Cree, or to pray in ceremony, and to smudge and pray, is it okay that I pray in English? Will Creator still hear my words and understand?
And English and Cree are rooted in the dimension of sound. Sound is something that you hear, and all of them emanate from Creator. And in that cave, Okemawachik, the chief mountain. There is a chief mountain in the spiritual dimension. And within the caverns in that chief mountain, there are writing systems that are written on the walls all around that cave. And every writing system that has ever been used by humans is written and kept in that. It's like a spiritual archives, Yeah. But like I say, getting there and getting in is a difficult thing. But if you should ever manage to do it, then you have that red paint, and you have to have your hand imprint to open those doorways, so that there can be a record kept of who was worthy enough, who became a worthy human being and managed to reach this place. And in all those systems of writing, every community, society that has ever documented anything in marks, whether it was on hide or birch bark or in the dirt, it's all written in those walls. And there is a flat rock in the middle of that room. It's round. And usually that is where that spirit who is teaching about these things would stand, on that rock. And all of the learners would be gathered around, listening to that one talk about communication. And Creator has no problem understanding any language. And so whatever language you have grown up with and feel comfortable in and have learned to communicate through, that is how you have been gifted. To use that to communicate not only with yourself, with your family, with your community, but with the larger community that includes the environment, the animals, and then even into the spiritual dimension. And there is in our ceremonies, for instance, when we pray, for instance, after I have made my prayers to Creator, expressed my thanks for the blessings of this sacred gift of life, and I will explain to Creator, it is I. Nioma papampicho gaitekosia. It is I, the nomad, who comes here to call upon your benevolence. And, this is what I ask for, blessings for these people that I love and care about, and their young ones, and even the ones who have yet to make an appearance, and all their ancestors, so that every one of them will benefit from my prayers and your blessings. And it, need not be a certain language. As what is important is the integrity of your prayers, that they come from your heart and they come from your soul. And they are expressed by the body, you see. They're all connected. And come as sound. So, it's not necessary. I mean, when we try to say, well, Creator only listens to people who speak Cree, that's more a reflection of how little our understanding is, rather than, about how great Creator's blessings actually are. This is just me saying I'm not worthy. I only know Cree, and I can't use that, to try to connect with the Creator. And yet when they come in the lodge, what do the spirits speak to us in? For me, they speak in Cree. I've been in a Blackfoot lodge, and boy, that was a powerful Blackfoot medicine man when he called his spirits in, and the Thunder Chief who sits with that Blackfoot ceremonialist came in. I could barely stand, just to listen to the power of that voice, saying, ho, 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 Nitagohtan, I am here, and I'm sitting in the darkness in the lodge here, and, this Blackfoot man is sitting here, and that's his spirit helpers, and that the spirit started talking to him. I had no idea what that spirit was saying because he was talking Blackfoot. And I was thinking about that, thinking, well, when we sing the spirits that answer our call, come and speak Cree. And now these Blackfoot ceremonialists, his spirits, helpers, come in speaking Blackfoot. And to me, that was a revelation. And all of a sudden, that spirit said to me, would you like me to speak Chinese? Would you like me to talk to you in Chinese? He said, Osekpacho, you know, the language of the braided ones, the braided hairs. And he knew what I was thinking. I didn't know they were so adept at languages. And that was just his way of saying we can speak any language, you know, we can understand any language. And if we can do it, well, you know, Creator made all these things, you know, how is he to not understand or to misunderstand when actually, you know, what's more likely is that we will misspeak. We will not be able to describe in detail what it is that we actually need, but they will fill in for us. Yeah. And so, you know, after I have made my pleas to Creator, given my thanks, and then asked, you know, for blessings for my people, my friends, my relatives, my, you know, all of these ones that I share ceremony with and love and care about. May we all be blessed with your benevolence. And when I have made my prayer to Creator, then I will call on the one who sits first, Kanstamapian, because there is Creator's stickman is the first, the one who sits first, the enforcer, you see. And after I have called on that one and thanked him, then I will address the ones who sit in the highest dimension with the one who sits first, the ones who share that dimension with the one who sits first, the grandmothers and the grandfathers. I also call upon you. And then next is the ones that sit nearby, to sit close to our homes, our earth, our land, the ones who watch over us, who sprinkle their blessings upon us, who bring their healing to us when we go into ceremony and ask for healing. You know, those are the ones that I will then call upon, the ones that sit at the next level. And finally, after I have addressed those ones, then the spirit of stone, because the spirit of stone said in your ceremonies and in your prayers, when you have finished giving your thanks and making your requests and addressed all the entities that you are familiar with, and the ceremony is about to be over, at that time, then call me. Kisenape wasini, old spirit stone, old man stone spirit, because when Creator put me here, the job that Creator gave me was in your ceremonies, to watch over you in your ceremonies. And when your ceremonies are done and your prayers have been spoken, your requests have been made, Creator said, before you bring them to where I will hear them, and I will see them, correct any mistakes that humans have made, clarify any ambiguities, so that, you know, these prayers are definitive and encompassing. And that's the work of stone spirit. So always at the end, I say, and now, kise na pe wasani. Pe pasigu. Stand up. And I'll say that 4 times. Pe pasigu. Pe pasigu. Pe pasigu. Pe pihtoa. Come and smoke. You have heard my prayers. You have heard me giving thanks. And if there was anything I misspoke, or didn't make clear enough, I know that Creator put you here to correct my mistakes in my prayers and in my ceremony. And I ask you to do that, so that when the ceremonies are shown to Creator, that they appear pleasing to His eyes. And when our prayers are brought to Creator, they are pleasing to the ears of Creator. And that's ceremony. Yeah. Again, I was telling your daughter there are these things I share with you today are incredibly detailed. These are the things, it reminded me when you were saying, I've heard people say we shouldn't be talking about these things. And, I think for me, a lot of people who go around saying that say that because they feel they are not worthy. And because they are not worthy, they have not studied, they have not meditated, they have not attended ceremony, they have not fasted, they have not made offerings, And so how can they be speaking for or to spirits, Because you have to elevate the level of the dialogue into positivity and healing and growth and and all these negative things. If that's all you got to talk about, well, go talk with your friends. That's something that they may be accustomed to. I mean, these are things about ceremony and prayer, And in the future, they will be beneficial. I mean, I see sometimes on Facebook people asking, can you write down a Cree prayer for my daughter who wants to learn to pray in Cree? Well, how old is your daughter? What are her needs? And if you want a prayer just written down for her to recite, well, there's a hymn book somewhere, Let her use that. But if she wants to learn how to pray so that it has meaning and that it achieves results, then send them to us. And we will put them into situations where they will be tested and they will either fall or they will grow, We'll take them as far as they want to go. And as far as they are worthy of going. And for me, it's sound, it's stories, it's songs that I was given to carry on and to pass on, to achieve understanding for myself and for people who are close to me. Other people have ceremonies or one ceremony, Like I have my sweats, but there's other people who have sun dances, for instance. And I was talking about, who runs the lodge in that thrusting dance, and it's either one or two. It's either Sun Spirit or Thunder Chief. You'll know which one it is when you look at the circles of willows that have been put up into the thunder's nest and the colors that are painted. Thunder will have certain color paint, and so will the sun. When the sun is presiding over the ceremony, it will be hot. The day will be clear and hot and dusty and difficult in that way. But if it's a thunder sitting in the nest, then you can expect cool and clouds and even sometimes rain. And if it rains, you can collect that water and drink it, because that's a gift of the Thunder Chief. But again, these are very deep. Most medicine people will fear to speak of these things unless you have already conducted your own. Then they would keep that in that circle. But I have sat with, Sundance chiefs at the highest level, and these are the things they wanted me to know, and for a reason. My first teacher, he said to me, when they brought you to me, they said you liked stories. I have lots of stories, he said. And when you were on your way, they told me that you would be with me for 4 years, and that I was to keep you here and teach you about ceremonies, about songs, about medicines. And after your initial 4 years, that you would be leaving and going out on your own journey. But I will always be here, he said. If you ever need my help, you can come and find me. And he was a difficult man to find at the best of times. Always in the bush. Doing his magic. And that's the man that reminded me of an elf. You know, when I first saw him, I thought, that guy looks like an elf out of a storybook, you know, like that posture, that hairdo, that size, and he's got to be an elf, you know. And that was my initial impression of this sorcerer when I met him. He was a magician. Yeah. He could make things fluid that were solid. But you would never know it if you were to meet him on the street. I remember one time he was having headaches, and his kids, he told them he had bad headaches for a few days now. So they took him to the hospital, go see a doctor. Well, that doctor wanted to x-ray his head. So he got his head x-rayed, see if there's anything wrong, you know, why he should be having headaches. And they went back there. The guy who had brought him there asked the doctor, well, did you get his x-ray back? Oh yeah, the doctor said, there's nothing in there. That should be causing that headache. And that old man was sitting there. Tansanitut. What did he say? Oh, he's talking about your head. He says there's nothing in there. That old man looked at it. Ka. They x-rayed your head and it's empty. So he went home and smudged with his own medicine. Since the doctors couldn't help him. But yeah, that was so funny.
See, whenever you have described him, he sounds beyond human. Right? But he was still a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I mean, his kids and his wife, I mean, he's just a foolish old man. But other medicine people, it was a totally different story. And no, you don't want to irritate him. He can do things. And even if he doesn't, and you overstep boundaries in your interactions with him, even if it's not his choice to pull you up short, his helpers can do that. His helpers can make you pay without him asking, because they know that you shouldn't treat a man like that in the fashion that you are treating him.
So did he have other students other than you?
During the time I was there, he did. And then, there were his sons. There was, I believe, 5 or 6 of them. But they were not interested. They were not interested at all. They preferred to spend their time in the bar, Yeah.
But he chose you.
Yes.
But I mean, you've also told me how you learned men's and women's medicine because there weren't, your grandmother was a medicine woman and there weren't women to teach.
My mother and her sisters, I mean, they learned some very basic medicines, but never really intensively studied the things that my grandmother knew. So they had kind of a basic knowledge and understanding of medicines, but not to the point where people would come and see them. Well, I mean, people used to come and see my mother for her heart medicine mixture, and things like that, but usually they just were not interested in that. And especially in their younger days, because they drank. And I mean, you couldn't be a drunk and a student at the same time. It was one or the other, Yeah. And most people preferred to be drunks in a time when conditions were really harsh and terrible.
But they would have had medicines to doctor their family as needed.
Yeah. But even then, it was not something enthusiastically participated in. It was, well, this is what my mother used to use. We can try that, But it was not until I started learning about process. One berry is an incredible thing. One seed is an incredible thing, because it will change.
And then your kids grew up and this was just part of their norm.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, well, I'm going to sweat, and they'd be right there, Yeah, Max loved to sweat. He loved to sit in that lodge, and he loved it when the little people would come in and play with him, Yeah, there's a little man here, Dad. He's tickling me. He's poking me with a stick. That's the thing I remember. But I remember hearing them run around on the ceiling. And he said, they're running around on the ceiling. They're running around upside down, Dad. How is that possible? They haven't heard about the law of gravity, I told him. And so their laws are different. Their powers are different. And so, laws in a certain dimension will not affect them in the same way that people who are of there will be affected. Yeah. Yes.
We've covered a lot of ground in our time together.
Mm-hmm. My God. We have. We've been all over creation. And the wind. The wind says, I will be forever blowing, forever traveling. And that's like us too. We do our time here and we get picked up by the wind into another dimension with other tasks, but we're always connected to our ancestors and our descendants. That's the thing about time that a lot of people can't wrap their heads around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That you can move back into the olden days, and if you're focused into the ancient times, when everything was different, the earth was different, the animals were different, people were different.
Oh, we've talked a bit about dreams, and I was thinking, over the years, I've shared many of my dreams with you and dreams I've had with you in them. And they've often, it seems it's past lives, and it's like an olden days type time, and we're together and in these different spaces. But I remember you saying once that, your dreams aren't necessarily of the past. They could be dreams of the future too.
Well, yeah. But if you feel they're in the past, they could be in the past too. You have lived many lives and you have inhabited many different bodies, Yeah.
Well, I'm honored to have traveled with you in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good journey.
Yeah.
And it's not over yet.
That's right. That's right. It's been intense.
We still have work to do.
And part of that work for me is about the young ones. That's so important, They grew up or raised in a world they don't understand, because it's not a natural world. It's an artificially created environment. And we're constantly told it's the natural order, But your soul knows it's not. So there's always that division between your soul and your mind, your soul and your emotions. And that's often the first reaction is the emotional reaction, Somebody tries to convince you that the world is the way they see it. Well, hold on there. Or you could get angry and say, who the hell do you think you are, or whatever. And well, if those are the mindsets of people, well, they're the ones that have to change that. You can offer bits and pieces of information, but you cannot totally explain something with them. They have to make the connections. They have to put the effort, you see, and then it becomes meaningful when the picture is revealed.
And I think of a time where I was questioning my role in, trying to learn about Indigenous culture and could I make a difference, and who did I think I was as a white person trying to learn these things, and maybe I should just step back, and I was questioning that, and you said, you are a white horse and I am a brown horse and we can pull the cart together.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that we show that we can work together, we can learn from each other.
Yeah. And Âsokan, it's a term that I use because we are trying to create a crossing between the cultures, between mainstream culture and indigenous culture. And that's only one bridge. There are many indigenous cultures. There are many non-indigenous cultures also. But for us, we are trying to make that bridge to facilitate the crossing over of ideas, understandings, histories, visions, ceremonies. Âsokan can be a medium or something that can help facilitate that dialogue between different cultures, different people, and hopefully in a positive way. If I talk about things, it's because I have earned the right to speak of these things. I don't talk about these things lightly, and I don't talk about these things to annoy or piss people off who think they know more than they actually know. And I say this, when in the circle of understanding, when you are first approaching to the crossing, that you become consciously aware. You listen, you hear, you feel, you look, you sense. In the same way that you would come into a circle of understanding, you do not have an inherent right to come in and babble aimlessly about things that are irrelevant and interesting only to you. That is not the purpose of the circle of understanding. A circle of understanding is there so that we have an avenue to talk in depth about matters of the spirit, about ceremony, about protocol, and why we do the things we do, to try to generate an understanding within every human being that we are all human beings. We all have relations in the spirit world. We all have descendants that will be appearing in the future, unless for some reason we have cut that off ourselves by our behavior, where, that if we exhibit behavior that should not be allowed in the future, then, you may not be allowed to have children. And so it's about facilitating understanding between people. And, there has to be, we were talking about, how do you create understanding? Well, you take knowledgeable people and you give them a forum in which to discuss things, but a forum which is governed by ancient laws and rules. That say you sit in this circle, you sit in a conscious manner. It is not your prerogative to assume the lead or dictate the curriculum of what is being discussed if you are an initiate, if you are a novice. Your purpose is to sit and to listen. And, a lot of people who have lots of degrees and who have spent many years in school often will try to dispute that and say, oh, I'm at the same level as you because I've got all these different degrees. Well, I have none of those degrees, but I have spirit helpers. Do you have spirit helpers? Do you have spirit calling songs? Do you have spirit sending home songs for after the ceremony is over? Or how do you facilitate when spirits come to you and they need to go back home? We provide that pathway of sound that they travel on to take them places. Sound is an incredibly complex and sacred thing. It is solid in some dimensions, and it is incredibly fluid in others. But for me, I am on a journey. I ask Creator, I ask the spirits for guidance, for direction, for protection. And when I have finished the course of learning, I do not expect a diploma that's saying I completed this course. But I may be given a feather by a bird who says, you earned this. You earned our blessings. I am the child of the thunders. And I stand here with you. I will be with you. I will stay with you. Look for the others. Look for the others. They're there. They're waiting. That's what they say to me. Find the others. Miskawik kutakak. Go find the others that are waiting for this. And the ones in denial, well, that's not your problem. That's not your issue. What people think of you is not your responsibility. What you think of yourself and what you think of Creator, that's your responsibility. That will determine and define who you are. And for me, that's the bottom line. That is who I am, and that is what I do. That is what I do. I work with sound. And my name is Wesley Fine Day according to the authorities, but in ceremony, I have my spiritual name. And my spiritual name should be guarded and protected and held close to you, because it's not something frivolous or extraneous. It's a part of you, and you have to protect it. Écoutez.
Thank you for joining us. We look forward to continuing these conversations. Thank you to Mr. Fine Day for his time and stories. Special thanks to the Lloydminster Public School Division Prairie Thunder Boys Drum Group for providing the music for our podcast. We also want to acknowledge Lakeland College for the use of space and equipment, as well as TELUS STORYHIVE for their support.